Greetings, fellow lovers of our library. I'm delighted to be able to kick off this inaugural Love My Library event. My profound thanks to the members of the Council of Advocates, to Jeannie, to half dozen others who made this event possible. I particularly nod towards Wade Stokes, who I see pacing nervously. Our fellow in the library this year, Peyton, has also had a lot to do with this. So a whole set of folks have made this initial event possible. I look forward to building on that. I've heard some grumbles about the weather. Do we not all know that Florida State plays poorly in hurricanes? So let's relax may have dampened our crowd a bit, but hardly our enthusiasm for this glorious day. So again, how thrilled we are to be here loving our library. My own library memories go back to 1982. I was touring Wake Forest and set foot in ZSR. We didn't have, for any of you youngsters here, we didn't have these formal, curated, you see this, and you see it. We just sort of found our way around back in the era we were raised by wolves. But I found my way here, and this was the first place at Wake Forest that felt like home, and it has ever been thus. I am in and out of this building every day, it feels like, and such a thrill to be here in this auspicious occasion. It is. We are also celebrating this day in some official sense, the inauguration of our new dean of this extraordinary institution. I got to know Tim Pyatt not in the friendly confines of the library or in some wonderful academic occasion conference, but as a candidate. So I first met him in a slightly nervous moment for Tim, but he charmed all of us on the search committee. I see some of my fellow members here with his combination of vision, his relaxed personal style, which concealed, as those of you who work with him now know, a good hard-charging sense of both a desire to innovate and be true to our deepest traditions. Nathan Hatch has been using the wonderful line that Wake Forest is a place that is unafraid to be both radically traditional and radically innovative. And Tim struck us then on the search committee and has struck us since here at Wake Forest as a man who embodies both of those. He's a son of North Carolina, as I think you all know. Indeed, part of his youth was spent in Winston-Salem, so this has been a homecoming for him as well. He had an inexplicably long sojourn at Duke. It takes a while for the truth of what is Duke to sink in, I think. He also was lightly seasoned at UNC. I didn't really know until I came to this search that Duke and Penn State, in all seriousness about our Duke forebears, have two of the absolute leading research libraries at universities in the country, and it is no coincidence that Tim has spent extended time in both of those. He came to us most recently from Penn State, where he had a senior position, what again I've learned is one of the nation's renowned research libraries, and all that we view as warm-up, prelude to the culmination of his career, and we hope he will spend the rest of it here with us at Wake Forest. So I give to you on this Love My Library Day the man we also love, Tim Pyatt. Love the library and love Tim.
Thank you, Rogan, for that very kind introduction. As you will see, I am working on my wardrobe. I'm trying to eradicate that blue and white, and I've got some nice black and gold. I found everyone looks good in black, so that's really good. So I am working on my ways, and I really am excited to be here at Wake Forest. What a great place! What a great university! And so I really, it's just wonderful to be here. And it's also, I appreciate the students here for letting us disrupt them for a few minutes here too. That's one of the things I do really love about Wake Forest is our commitment to our students and our faculty. And so I really feel very honored to be entrusted with this award-winning library program. And so fortunately for me, former dean and now vice provost Lynn Sutton really left me with a full cupboard One of the things I learned shortly after I came here is that I inherited a really talented and highly motivated library faculty and staff. And you all are really committed to the teaching and learning success of our faculty and students. And so for the library faculty and staff here, would you guys raise your hand for a moment so people can see you? I want to, yes. As I've told folks, during that interim period, you guys have kept the foot on the gas, and I've been racing. I feel like I'm chasing the bus trying to catch up. So you guys are making it great. It's a fun place to work because of that, and really I feel like any success I enjoy as dean is because of you. So I'm also really grateful. The other thing to have is I have a great council of advocates. These are some devoted library volunteers and supporters, and they actually did the initial planning for this event, and then yesterday we worked them hard as they helped us sort of plan out the strategy of how we're going to move forward with the library's Wake Will campaign, and I feel like we're in a great position for success thanks to this group. So without rattling on too much, I wanted to celebrate this occasion, and most importantly to celebrate this library. We've invited several very distinguished speakers to talk a little briefly about their engagement with ZSR. And I'm going to introduce all three speakers at once, and they'll come up and talk, and then I'll close it out for us. But our first speaker is going to be Jenny Pukett. She's a retired faculty member and Wake Forest alumna, as well as a Wake Forest parent. Our next speaker will be John Cooper, who's also a Wake Forest alum and is chair of the college board, and both Jenny and John are also members of the ZSR Council of Advocate. Batting cleanup for us today will be none other than Mr. Wake Forest himself, Provost Emeritus Dr. Ed Wilson, or as I've come to know him, the greatest treasure in the ZSR library. So no one has a longer or deeper association with the library than Dr. Wilson, so I can't imagine a better person to talk to you as well today. So I'm going to stop talking and let you hear some of these experts here. So Jenny, if you want to take over.
Well, there is plentiful evidence that among the alumni parents, of which I am in the group, there is a common weakness that we all share, and that is our complete inability to refrain from telling our Wake Forest children about our glory days at Wake Forest and how different they were. Take this library, for example. When my husband and I were undergraduates here in the late 60s and early 70s, this facility was considerably smaller. And if you wanted to find a phrase that described it, you would say that it was quiet, hot, and full of books. And yet we loved it that way. To get into the front door of this library, you had to go up stone stairs to the 4th level and at the balcony, and the front door was standing in front of the circulation desk, which looked out over Davis Field. And on either side of that circulation desk was our great big card catalog. Some of you may have never even seen a card catalog. And in those drawers were quite a few cards that were written out by hand because they'd been brought from the old campus. And today here we are in the Z. It's not hot, it's not quiet, it's cool and comfortable, and it is abuzz with activity throughout the day, throughout the night, and often overnight. It's a wonderful place, and through all these years, the incomparable staff has never been content to just keep us up with the other libraries. They have energetically innovated and created programs so that today, ZSR Library stands proudly among the top research libraries in the nation. So what does that mean to us parents? All I can say is that parents of every age and in every age find that they want one thing as they see their children growing up. They want to know that their children have the talent, the skills, and the education to face their adulthood and not just survive, but thrive. They want to know that their children have learned how to learn, and that is exactly what ZSR Library does. This is what ZSR does for our children. It empowers them. It gives them big learning, but on a person-to-person level. Recently, I came across something that defines this mission really well. It's a Chinese proverb that was later rephrased by Benjamin Franklin, and it goes like this: if you tell me, I may forget. If you teach me, I may remember. But if you involve me, I will learn. Involvement is at the heart of everything that takes place here. Dean Pyatt, welcome to Wake Forest. We offer you our involvement as well.
Good afternoon. I'm John Cooper, class of 72, and I love ZSR. As a student, when I opened the door to this building, I felt like my future came in, and that's because I joined the debate team. And at that time, the debate team, the speech communication faculty, the practice rooms we used to practice for debate, and the debate seminar room where we spent time 24/7 were all in this building. So this building was my favorite place on campus, and honestly, every time I come in here, I still feel the magic of college. It is my honor to this year chair the College Board of Visitors, so on behalf of the College Board of Visitors, welcome Dean Pyatt to Wake Forest. That's about 70 alumni who are engaged in advising and supporting Dean Gillespie and the college, so I enjoy talking to alumni about their memories of their days at Wake Forest, just as Jenny was talking about. And they remember ZSR in several ways. It's a collection of books, as we've mentioned. It's an archive. It's a repository of knowledge. ZSR is a center of scholarship and an emblem of wisdom and learning. But all of those things to me fall a little bit short of evoking love. And then alumni talk about my ZSR space, the space I claimed, where I spent hour after hour, and then the smile comes on and their face gets animated, and I feel a little bit of that love when they talk about my ZSR space. And I told you about my space because I was a debater. I met my wife here. She had her space. It was in the stacks. Every evening she claimed it. I don't know what happened if somebody else tried to get it. She would reward herself by taking a break and going to the attic at that time and getting Russian tea and Moravian sugar cake. She was there every evening. If you do that every evening, you graduate summa cum laude, as she did. I did not. Then there was the alum who had a backpack and found a bench and could use the backpack as a pillow, could recline and read and read and read. And then I heard the story of a student a year ahead of me who came here amazed to find the entire bound volumes of Time magazine. This was a long time ago. And he said, that's my space because I'm going to read them all. I don't know if he did or not. But Dr. Wilson tops us all because he still has his space in ZSR. So my space in ZSR, it's a space that became something that was important for our spirits. It was a place of refuge, of reassurance, of comfort, and yes, of daydreaming. It reminds me of the movie, The Wings of Desire, and then a remake that was, I think, made in 1988, The City of Angels, in which angels inhabit the San Francisco Public Library, and they comfort the living, and they can sense what they're thinking. So I think if the angels of Wake alums came to any building other than Wake Chapel, wouldn't it be ZSR? So I spent yesterday with Dean Pyatt. There is no doubt he's fallen in love with ZSR. That's happened already. There is also no doubt that he realizes from his past that every great university has a great library, and ZSR is that. And he is committed to making ZSR even greater. So he and I share the vision of which we have great confidence that as long as anybody can imagine, ZSR will be at the heart of this university, and it will be in the hearts of alumni around the world.
Anyone who knows me knows that I love the library. I'm here practically all the time. When I think about libraries, my mind goes back to the first library I knew. A small library in a small mill town about 50 miles from here, where I was born and where I grew up. The town of Leakesville, now named Eden. That town had few books in the 1930s, I suppose. We had no bookstore. There were very few people in Leakesville who had personal libraries. I remember once going into the home of an architect who, surprisingly, had many, many books around the house, and I had a chance to visit him sometimes because I knew his children. But some very kind benefactor out of that town years ago had given a house, a residence, to be a public library. And when I was a young boy growing up in Leakesville, if I wanted to read beyond the few things we had in our house, I would go to this little library. I would walk down the railroad tracks on the way to Spray, find a place in the library, and start reading. And I still remember that it was in that library that I first read Thomas Wolfe and Ernest Hemingway and Scott Fitzgerald, the novelist at that time whom any growing boy or girl, I guess, wanted to know. So out of that background, I came to Old Wake Forest. And it's been my honor to have known most of the librarians who have held this position at Wake Forest. I'm satisfied that as I go back and acknowledge Tim's predecessors, I will mention some that most of you never knew or even now know about. But I would like to begin with the librarian on the old Wake Forest campus in the Heck Williams building. She was Ethel Taylor Crittenden. She was the daughter of President Charles Taylor, who is remembered, as you know, I guess, in Taylor House, over on the northwest corner of the campus. Mrs. Crittenden, with a limited budget and a small building, one floor of stacks, kept and managed a library magnificently. The last time I saw Mrs. Crittenden, I went to her 100th birthday party. Many of us gathered in a classroom to thank her for her service to Wake Forest. People stood and talked, as they are today. And when it was over, Miss Crittenden, who, as you can guess, was fairly weak to speak, she went over to a blackboard, took a piece of chalk, and went up to the blackboard and wrote, "I love you." That was my last experience with one of our founders, Ms. Crittenden. She was followed by a man named Carlton West. I wonder if anyone here ever knew Carlton West. Probably not. He was a professor of history, a Yale man, and he was picked from the faculty to be the librarian. He was rather famous for his oratory. He was a great speaker. And I recall that most of us took a course in American history, and we had various members of the faculty as our teacher. But once a week, all of the students in American history The college wanted them to have something special. All of them were invited once a week to go to a big room and hear Carlton West. And he became, as I say, the next librarian. He was followed by Merrill Berthrong, who many of you did know. Merrill came in 1964. He came here from Pennsylvania. He was devoted to the quality of books. That was a book pre-technological era, in a sense. And his great achievement, besides introducing a new card catalog numbering system, his great achievement was building up our special collections and our rare books. And if you have occasion to go to the rare books room, which is extensive, you will see the fruit of Merrill Berthrong's labors. We have some surprisingly grand things in the rare books room. Then we were fortunate to have Rhoda Channing for a time. Rhoda's name all of you know because it is now above the door to one of the most popular places in the building, the Starbucks coffee shop. I went there the other day, and I didn't stay because there were about 30 people ahead of me in line. I'm beginning to learn what is exactly the right time of the day to go. But Rhoda Channing, who I remember, among other things, loved tennis, took some big steps toward bringing the library into the modern technological world. And then, of course, we had Lynn Sutton. I guess Lynn is here today, though I don't see her. But I'm sure she's back there somewhere. One thing I want to say about Lynn, especially, and I can say a number of things, because we have worked together on many projects. She came into a library which, like any library, was the center of learning. And she helped make it into the center of student life. Under her librarianship, all of a sudden, this library sort of exploded with various kinds of possibilities and interests. And it became, I think, in a way that not even the Benson Student Center is, it became the true center of the campus. So Tim, you had some noble predecessors. And I want to say about Tim that no sooner had the word come out that he was to be our new librarian, dean of libraries, no sooner had that word come out than I began to get telephone calls from friends of mine at Duke. And they told me that Wake Forest had made the right selection. He was the right man for Wake Forest and for the future. And in the last few weeks, I have discovered that that assessment was true. Tim, all that we have seen leads us to believe that you not only stand in a noble line, but you will continue that noble line into the future. Congratulations. We're glad you're here.
I now realize my big mistake, which was talking after these three. So I really thank you, Jenny, John, and Dr. Wilson. Your stories are inspiring and really I feel very challenged now to really go forward and build upon what you've talked about. I also feel like it really captures that great tradition of the keeping Wake Forest traditions alive while still being innovative and moving forward. So thank you again for your remarks. One of the things I've been saying to a lot of folks too is I think this is one of the great things about being at Wake Forest is that with the kind of activities and programs we do, it's never been a better time to be a librarian than right now. And I can't imagine a place I'd rather be a librarian than at Wake Forest University. Thank you.